Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are going to work on the escape pods here. I'm not going to just take one individually. We do have roughly about four of them that we'll kind of cover here today, and then we have like another three or whatever that kind of fit in for a second video. Um, yeah, I'm not going to just do one single little pod or whatever because there's different variations here. So we're going to cover like a couple of the major ones here that have been done in the books many years ago that we just never saw. And of course, then when we have the Disney sequels, we saw some different types of escape pods being used from the Millennium Falcon. So none of that is in here, but this is you know a look at what we do have here. So going off of the Wikipedia, I'm just going to kind of read what they have written up, talking about some of the escape pods because they do bring in from some of the video games here. And then we'll kind of go over the stats here. Okay, escape pods, also known as life pods, are small escape craft intended for use in emergencies, just like our lifeboats are today. They are standard aboard all deep space starships. Some luxury models are fitted with hyperdrives. Some escape pods are designed to fly into upper atmospheres and wait for a pickup from another ship, which is how Jedi Master Yoda departed Kashyyyk. While Order 66 was declared, some planets had a network of escape pods that could launch into the upper atmosphere away from danger. Cal Kestis despised escape pods, which was likely caused by his experience during Order 66, in which Kestis Master Jaro Tapai, I might be messing that up, I'm sorry, um, died in front of his Padawan in an escape pod after being mortally wounded by clone troopers. Clone troopers. Geez, I just cannot read today. Okay, smaller ships such as the Millennium Falcon and other light freighters carried such craft that could only accommodate typically one sized humanoid in a fixed, immobile, and strengthened position. Um, R2D2 and C3PO used an escape pod to smuggle the Death Star plans off of Tenet of 4. The Devastator's gunnery officers noticed the launch, but chose not to fire upon the pod, presuming that it had malfunctioned as they detected no life forms on board. Um, at an advanced, or at the advice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Han Solo jettisoned the escape pods of the Millennium Falcon. When the ship was caught in the tractor beam of the Death Star, he laminated their loss as they were inexpensive, but recognized the value of the move as a ruse and recorded a captain's log stating that it had been abandoned, that the ship had been abandoned. All right, so I'm glad that they did bring in the original trilogy. I just, kind of going through this. So, based off of the original, and that's really where we're going on this. Based off the original Star Wars, when Star Wars became Episode 4 and everything else, that's where we really get our idea of escape pods. And most notably, what we have is just listed as the original escape pod that we saw. So we do have one man escape pod being listed here from West End Games. And this is a Faberstein Largo PES 550. So it's a general alignment, rise from the Rise of the Empire. It is speeder scale at 1.5 meters. Um, has a crew of one, no extra passengers, and it is nice that they gave us like a little internal here, so we can kind of see that you're kind of crammed in there. There's not really any room for anyone else. We do have consumables for 1 week, and looking inside there, I'm thinking you're going to be happy to get out of there. But the cost was really 800 credits brand new and 200 credits used. Um, in all, it weighs 700 kilograms. Um, Space is one. with the launch booster when it first shoots out to get away from whatever ship it's being launched from, has a space of 4. Um, in an atmosphere, it can go about 600 kilometers an hour, has a hull of 3D, and all it has is a passive scanner at 500 meters. Um, so yeah, it's just a very basic rudimentary kind of escape pod. Then we're going to kind of jump over to our more common one that we're used to seeing from the Tenet of 4. So this is a ship lifeboat starfighter scale at 3.5 meters. It doesn't need any crew. It'll just pre-program itself. Can carry up to 8 passengers. No extra cargo. Has enough consumables for 1 day, and it's at a cost of about 20,000 credits brand new. Zero maneuverability. It's just meant to softly crash land onto a planet. Has a space of 1. It's going about 600 kilometers an hour. And they gave it a hull of 1D plus 1, just enough to make it down onto the planet's surface, and then you're on your own. Um, and then once we get into the Corellian escape pod, now this is a little bit more luxurious, and yeah, this is from Kraken's Rebel Field Guide, which I do remember seeing it in there. And there again, it is nice that you see a little bit of like an internal. It is tall enough you can walk around in there. It was meant more for luxury and all that. So, again, it's at speeder scale, has a crew of none because it's not really meant to be crewed. It's an escape pod. It'll probably use some sort of droid brain to try and get it onto a planet. It can carry up to 6 passengers and about 18 kilograms of personal gear for cargo. Has consumables enough for about a week for the 6 passengers. Space of 0, maneuverability is 0, and hull of 1D. Again, just enough of a hull to safely get you down to the planet, and then you're kind of on your own. Now, at least here you have about a week's worth of consumables. I'm going to guess that you could probably use this as a temporary shelter, if for nothing else, to try and get by until you get picked up. And then last of all, here we have a lifeboat. So this one comes from Han Solo in the Corporate Sector Handbook, or Source Book. So this is an emergency lifeboat, starfighter scale, 10 meters long. Let's see, it does require a crew of 1 and can carry up to 14 passengers. So this one, and we do have a very rudimentary. This is probably more of what they were basing the Clone Wars escape pod off of. That's where I'm going to kind of guess on this one. So we have cargo capacity of none, but it does have some emergency gear in there. We have consumables for a week. It does have a space of 2. In the atmosphere, it can go 650 kilometers an hour. Has a maneuverability of 1, a hull of 1, and our cost here is about 18,000 credits brand new and 5,600 used. And passively, it can go out for scan for about 1 kilometer. These are single use. You use it, it's gone. I don't know how many. Well, I suppose if you're down on luck, or you're salvaging from some other craft, maybe getting them used. But I'm going to guess that for the most part, you're probably going to buy brand new. And like it said, I mean, for the most part, these were relatively inexpensive. And very necessary, especially when you're traveling the space lanes and you're trying to make sure you can get in safely, and then you can, in that unfortunate case where you have to leave in an emergency, something's going catastrophic on a ship or whatever, you can get out of there. So looking at these are things that we don't typically look at, nor do we typically think of. I mean, even when we're on cruise ships, I don't think that they really. It's not like years ago. I mean, because I think of the Titanic, you see all the lifeboats on there, but you look at today's modern cruise ships or whatever, you don't see anything. I think it's all like inflatable stuff or whatever, which are positioned wherever. But I don't think I haven't really been on one. I know I was on a ferry boat 26 years ago, um, going across Lake Michigan, and I can't really say I remember seeing a lifeboat on there. But a lot of this stuff is all inflatable, kind of survival lifeboats or whatever today. So it's kind of out of place, out of mind for the general public. I'm sure all the people that have to do like monthly checks and make sure everything's there and all that, they know exactly where everything is, but that's something I typically think of. Um, so it's this is stuff that they came up with outside of our old original, which was George Lucas and ILM's version of what a lifeboat would be, and then West End Games and them they came up with these others for the books or so on and so forth. Now, when we revisit Star Wars and we see it in the sequel, and we see how they had done the escape or the escape pod there. Um, that's all a reimagined version of it. Um, it's funny because in the very beginning vision of what you saw on the sides of the Millennium Falcon, those were early on reported as escape pods. But today we look at that as more of um, kind of like coupling sections so that way you could go from one ship to another. You could actually dock. It's a docking port, so you can dock up to another ship. Although there is another ladder that you can go through the top of the ship onto um, another ship, which they had used in what is now Episode 5, so they could get to the medical frigate. So, um, and they were docked that way. But when you look at all the schematics, and maybe we should try and do that someday, you go through how the ship has changed over the years by somebody else coming along and saying, "Yeah, let's have this on the Falcon, or let's do that with the Falcon." That ship has changed so much over the years, but it's an interesting thing to look at these and then bring them to you. Um, it's things that we don't typically see. So here we are. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you in the next video.